Hello and welcome to another of the Lawful Remedy. The clever clogs are waiting in the wings, and in the meantime there's the lovely Karen Dodd and myself, Richard Vobes, and thank you so much for joining us on this live event on the 12th of April 2024. I hope you're all very well. Karen, how are you?
I'm right, actually, thank you. Yeah, I'm very well.
Oh, I've
Good.
lost...
Yeah, and I'm there.
And there you are, hang on.
There, but you're not.
Technical.
No,
We set that up. I've just got to move
it's that
camera.
port again, isn't it? We were talking
I
about
know.
port.
No, it's not. I'm pressing the wrong button now.
But no, I'm
It's all going horribly
good.
wrong.
I'm good. We missed you last week, so I'm glad
Oh, I
that you're
was ill.
better. You were. You had a sore throat, and we all told you to sort of, be quiet.
Well, it was more than a sore throat.
No, of course it was.
Oh, I mean,
but-
I was on my back. There was, blood spewing
Yeah.
out. I was throwing up every 2
yeah.
minutes.
Your arm came off, didn't it? We had to sew your arm back
Yeah,
on.
I did
know.
that thing from Exodus where your head goes round.
Oh,
several
right,
times.
right.
I mean,
and
it was,
spat blood.
not just man flu.
No.
It was.
No,
It was
we've
quite
recovered
evil.
well, and it's good to have you back. But you were missed, definitely. You were
Oh,
missed.
thank you very much. Grand. So here we are with another of these question times for our lawful people. And we should just say right at the start, of course, just to clear ourselves, this is not legal advice from barristers and all those sort of people. Nearly swore then. But so if you want some of that, then go and part with some good hard-earned money. We've got some lawful people here.
We have.
And Karen is going to tell us who our panel is tonight.
So tonight, Matthew.
Yes.
Sorry, Richard. We have. Sorry, but what are you doing, Richard?
Oh, I'm just fiddling in the chair, sorry.
We've got three guys. We're going to have Stephen, but I don't know what's happened to Stephen as well. But so far this evening, we've got Gary from Hull.
Hello, Gary from Hull.
And I say Hull. I know it's actually the biggest town that I recognise, but you're that neck of the woods, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm very close, if not nearby.
Very. And Gary, just tell us a little bit about your background, please, so people know, what gives you the wisdom, the right to tell us what to do. Yeah, the wisdom, the knowledge.
I suppose it's not right to say what to do. It's a case of accumulated knowledge from my uni days up to today, and obviously been involved in a lot of different court cases and a lot of different actions and orders, and obviously council tax stuff and all sorts of other things, obviously including my own battles that I've had with my own journey through obviously the law and the rhetoric of law, the vocabulary of the law, and how to apply it. And basically it's the application of it that's changed for me over the last about 10 years, where it used to be quite straightforward and quite objective, and I would say quite fair to a certain degree. But obviously over this last 10 years, like I've been explaining to the people I work with in Wakefield, it's now sometimes a case of a flip of a coin, depending how the judge feels on that day.
Gosh.
It really, especially magistrates courts, because they're not legally trained. They have a legal advisor sat with them. And so they have to be advised on anything that you say anyway, and they can't make any decision until the clerk of the court actually goes, yes, actually, we can make that actual order or that decision based on...
Sorry, Gary, to interrupt, but can I just ask? I mean, it's a flippant question, but what is the point of a magistrate then? If they're not legally trained and they're being advised on everything, are they effectively a puppet?
Well, it's not so much a puppet. They're actually basically most magistrates are local business people that have got no better to do because they've earned that. Well, essentially, that's what they are.
Yeah.
This is why it's like right next to them. If you actually look on the bench, there is the magistrate, then usually the legal advisor to one side of them, and the clerk of the court that moves between the benches. And like I say, so the legal advisor will advise the actual magistrate on basically anything that you show as evidence or anything you pose as legal argument to your defence. And basically, then they'll confer and go, yeah, we can actually accept this, we can't accept that. Here's our ruling based on the questions or the legal argument you put forward.
And the magistrate is the one that actually passes the judgment, is it? Even
yeah,
if
based off the legal advice. Yeah, they don't make that decision based on their own judgment.
Right.
They have to have the legal advice to say, is there a precedent there? Are there actually any statute or any mandatory fines or sentences attached to that breach or violation?
Oh,
and also before we move to the next panelist, Gary, just let us know what you're trained in, because you teach quite a few subjects, don't you?
Yes, for my sins, yeah.
Yeah, so just give us a quick list.
Well, basically, I'm now. I was honoured with advanced teacher status because of my actual dedication, commitment to the research and practice of literal research that I've done within education. And basically, over my time, I can teach basically A-level psychology and clinical psychology up to second year degree. All the ones that I'm going to mention next are basically all at A-level. So I can teach criminology and law, philosophy and ethics, health and social care, sociology, and counselling.
And you do some martial arts as well, I think.
Yes, I'm a master instructor of Wing Chun Kung Fu, hence the dummy behind me.
Oh,
pretty good. So pretty well qualified to assist
in the courts. You can see. Aha!
Yeah, I think
well, it's more that another thing about that, Richard. I'll give you a really quick insight into what Kung Fu basically trains you to do. Because all Kung Fu means is hard work over time to accomplish skill. And it doesn't matter what skill it is. If you are good on a guitar and you can wow the public with, riffs and tunes and rhythms that kind of break their heart, that is a skill. That's a Kung Fu. That's just a trained skill. It's basically hard work over time to accomplish a skill. That's all I've done is spent like 22 years accomplishing that skill. That's all I've done.
But they say it's like 10,000 hours to be an expert, isn't it?
No, to be a master.
To be a master.
Basically you have to then do another 15 years to become a grandmaster.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, so... But Richard, all I say is, your mum had good Kung Fu because she could give you just one stare and that would shut you down like that. That's Kung Fu.
How did you know my mum? That's what I want to know.
Everybody's mum has that look. Everybody's mum has that look.
Naughty step.
Exactly. Shuts you down. She don't have to say a word. She just gives you that look. And that's
Didn't work for me.
But that's what Kung Fu gives you is that intent to look at them and go, if you start with me, it's not going to end good.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
So that's a wonderful Gary, and we also have the Sovereign Trust.
The Sovereign Trust.
So are we
Hello.
Hi. Well, I'm one member of the Sovereign Trust. We're an anonymous collective, and we aim to dispel fear and also dispel people being ripped off. So we provide training materials on our website for free, so that people can be empowered to put together their own private trust, should they wish to do so. There's lots of training materials on there so that people can get a good comprehension of what a trust is and what the elements are. My journey here started in 2021 when I stopped paying for everything. I went into Telegram and Facebook groups and really just did as much research as I could. I wasn't working at the time, and I found there was lots of fear in there in the groups. So my motivation for being here today is to share some of the research that we've done in order to dispel that fear in others.
Well, that sounds very laudable and what people want, isn't it? I think that's half the reason people are coming and tuning in, is they're very curious about not only being able to sort of not pay for things which they don't feel they ought to, but also having dispelled the fear that they won't be got at if they do.
Yeah. Yes, because I think one of the biggest fears with council tax is the fake liability order, and then the debt collectors coming after the car, or even worse, the stories about the bankruptcy, which are only threats, really. Not many people have had that kind of follow through. And when you dig deeper into some of the stories that you hear online, often it's because people haven't gone through any kind of process. Maybe they've been ill and just didn't respond to anything at all and made themselves low-hanging fruit. And they didn't know how to deal with their car. So that gets taken and they've got no support network to back them up. So our philosophy is protect your assets first. If you've got a house, you can put it into a private trust yourself, change the name with the land registry with the documents that we've put up there. And you can also fill out an RX1 to prevent charges being put on the property. So I've just recently been through this myself, which is why I'm sharing the information, because I've spent 3 years backwards and forwards with the land registry, going through different processes, and eventually got to a point where I thought, okay, I feel confident sharing this now.
Brilliant. And if people want to go and check your website out throughout the show, and of course after the show, thesovereigntrust.net, is that the URL?
Yes, and our email address is on the contact page if people want to book in for a Zoom. We do Zooms on any kind of questions about council tax, dealing with utilities, income tax, that kind of thing. And also we can help you go through we've got what I thought was a comprehensive instruction manual on there, but there are some people who want more help. So we do very comprehensively charge, what should I say, cheap sounds bad, doesn't it? There's a better word for that. But
inexpensive,
cost effective.
Yes, we're not here to make money out of it. It's to empower and support people.
Well, I'm sure we'll get some questions about trusts,
absolutely,
and that sort of thing on tonight's show.
Well, can I say, Richard, basically, just on the trust side, that's another thing I wanted to actually chat about if I had a chance tonight, was the fiduciary understanding that underpins that the trust itself, and like I say, how they actually got that fiduciary law in place so they could start the trust. So it's one of the foundations that I'd like, if I get a chance to chat about, how they got fiduciary law in place so they could start these trusts in the first place. You can get a really good foundation of how they basically got all of this in place. Well, since about 1825, essentially.
I'm sure we'll get
later.
to that.
Yeah. Shall we introduce our other
third
panellist?
panellist?
Our third panellist tonight is Sovereign Pete, who's your mate, really, isn't he? I think you've done a lot of work together.
He's been on the show many times, and we are at the Attic Theatre in Southampton tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it should be good. Hello, Pete.
Yep. Hi, Richard. Old buddy, old mate.
Old mate. Two old baldies on the stage. Right. It's outrageous. So, Pete, tell us a little bit about you for those people who may not know you.
Yeah, well, I set up the Sovereign project a couple of years ago now. Set up a website with some free information, basically in a response to people not knowing what mandates were and panicking because they thought they'd been mandated to have a medical procedure. And I said, that's not how mandates work. So I put a whole load of free information up on there, how to do notices, affidavits, how courts are supposed to work, this sort of stuff. From there, I've set up some workshops. I think we've got, or in the middle of setting up 15 now, and some are in different countries. So I think we've got one setting up in New Zealand, if I believe. But I've got a chap who actually runs the workshops for me. So we have a page on the website. So if you want to try and find your local workshop, you can pop along to the workshop and learn some of this stuff. It's all free. Now, if you can't get to a local workshop, we do online courses as well. We do a 22-week foundation course, the basics, just to get you up to speed. And of course, we now do our 17-week masterclass when we start getting deep into the system and how to become sovereign and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot going on with the Sovereign Project. It's huge. To give you an idea now, I've got over 100 people working for me in my task force doing things. It's massive. I started... and a friend of mine started the website. There was two of us, and now we've got over 15,000 members, and it's growing. We've got about 10 people a day joining. So yes, it's free information. We've got the Sovereign Wiki as well now, so people can put their remedies up on the wiki and share it with people. We will be setting up chess clubs across the country and hopefully globally. And this is going to be the beginning of what we are setting up and what we are calling the Sovereign Litigation Team. And the idea is we've had enough of all this corruption. So we want people to get involved, and we're going to show you how to do it. So you can actually serve notice on these people who work for governments, put them on notice and say, you've got to cease and desist because what you're doing is violating my rights. But
brilliant.
We can go.
And it's a numbers game, isn't it? So it's great what you're doing, Pete. We've got to do this en masse. What is your website for those that don't know already?
Sure. It's thesovereignproject.live.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our panel. Oh, hang on, I pressed the wrong button there. Sorry about that. There we go. That's our panel. I've got to be vision mixer as well as host and all of that. So, if you've got a question and you want to question something, or questions that we've had before, you may have been watching some of our previous shows. This is the fifth of our, isn't it? I think the
fourth
4th?
Yeah, because it should have been the 5th, but it's the 4th because of last week because you were poorly.
Oh right, I just put 5 on the thing. Never mind, doesn't matter. Anyway, it is a number of the
yes,
ones
yes,
that we've done.
4th.
He says talking to the wrong camera. And where am I? Who am I? What's my purpose in life? If you have a question, what we're asking you to do is to put the word question in capitalisation, no less.
Oh.
Yes, outrageous.
Oh,
so
God.
It draws our attention in sign language, basically. So it draws our attention in the chat, so that if you have a question to any of the panelists, then we can put that to them. So this is your opportunity to talk to.
I was going to say,
Yes.
Richard, it's actually also called Babble or Dog Latin.
Ah, there you go. Babble or Dog Latin.
Well, it's Dog Latin first, but if it's written down basically, and they're trying to actually pass it off as a name, it's classed as Babble in English.
Ah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of psycho babble, and we do a bit of babbling here. If you've got a question, we would love to hear it. And I think Steve Ray has a question. It's a question to ask Pete.
Yes,
okay, this is
I ignored it. I ignored that
off
one.
Topic. It says, ask Pete if he has any other shirts other than black.
That's his branding.
I do know the answer to this because I've asked him.
Yeah.
You do, Richard.
Oh,
But the answer is no,
Well,
he doesn't.
can I just say something, Pete?
Sure.
Pete, that essentially, the colour black in the Taoist philosophy means that you're in the place of wisdom and knowledge, because that's where you find an enlightenment in the
There you
dark.
go.
That's a good enough reason,
That'll
isn't
do
it?
me.
That's why I wear a lot of black.
Yes.
What am I? Blue? Yours? No, blue. Cool.
We better ask
do
the
you-
Sovereign Trust. Are you in black tonight?
Yeah,
I'm
you're
in
black.
I'm in red. What's
Ooh, red.
Oh
Ooh.
my goodness.
There we go. Fantastic.
We do have a question before this gets really, really silly.
Yes.
I think it's going to be silly night. So this one is coming from Nick GB. My council has been dissolved, so I've emailed them asking who and where is my rent payments and council tax contributions being paid to.
Oh, that's a very interesting. So how do you know it's been dissolved? On Company's House, presumably?
Well, possibly, yeah.
So would any of the panel like to take that one on board?
Yeah, because a lot of them are going bankrupt, aren't they?
They
lot
are
of them.
going bankrupt.
They're still,
Yeah,
if you're
Birmingham's
bankrupt, you
gone
can't do
bankrupt.
business, can you?
Yes, how come they
Yeah.
can still do business if they're bankrupt and ask people for money? I mean, they're asking assumed businesses,
Yes.
for one thing.
Yes.
Because we're not businesses, are we?
We're not indeed.
Or corporations.
I'm
So
not-
who
I'm
would
not
like
sh-
to answer that question?
I'm not sure if that would come under territorial jurisdiction based off the personal jurisdiction they would have over that ward, because obviously subject matter jurisdiction is for the court. So it might. I'm not sure if it follows that same pattern when it comes to the territorial and personal jurisdiction that they would have over a ward. If the councillors over that ward essentially went bankrupt, basically because of mismanagement of funds. So I'm not 100% certain on that, but I believe it would come into that area of the municipality, principality, and the jurisdiction there over that territory.
Right, I can chip in as well regarding the council tax thing as well. By the way, I just want to chip in about the word ward. If you find yourself in a ward, you've given up your power of attorney. So you've given up your authority. So you should never agree to be in a ward.
Oh no, I won't agree to that.
No.
Definitely not.
Big trick,
Especially at our hospital
I was
ward.
thinking that.
Hospital
I was
ward.
thinking that.
Prison ward,
Yeah, yeah.
voting. You vote in a ward, and you've given
Ward
away
of
your power of
court.
attorney. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
ward of
this
court.
is why
court.
this is why we have counsellors, because you only have counsellors in a ward.
There you go.
Like in a hospital ward or psychiatric
Correct.
ward, you have a counsellor.
I know.
So, and we are seen as lunatics, or basically
Yeah.
those of absent mind.
Well, that might be me anyway. I mean, they may have got that bit right
Yeah.
with me, but I'm...
Careful what you wish for,
Yeah, I
Richard.
know, absolutely.
Or what you say.
But the question... Did
Yeah.
we get through the question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pete,
I've got
let's go.
something more on the council house thing. Now, here's something a little bit interesting that you have to understand with the land registry. Okay. Now, there is a little bit of a problem when you try and put your house into trust, or try and put your house into the name of a trust. In other words, it's registered to a trust, because the land registry is now turning around and saying we're not accepting trust names. You've got to have a legal persona name, which is basically your legal name, as in person.
Fred Blogs.
That's right. And you go, well, hang on a minute. We have a bit of a problem here, don't we? Because what about council houses? because they are not registered to a legal persona. All right. They appear to be registered to a corporation. And then you go, well, hang on a minute again. You go, how can I owe the corporation any money? Where's the contract? If I'm paying rent to somebody, can I please have this person's name? So, I mean, if you dig deeper, you realize that they've been so deceptive because no one wants to take liability or responsibility, right? So they've been hiding behind corporate names. If you keep digging, you'll find that no one actually owns those council houses. So they're up you can claim them.
Can you?
Wow.
There's a video there.
There's a video there, yeah. You've got to dig deep.
But if you can't therefore register your house under a trust name because the registry office is saying no, what can you do? How do you get around that one?
Well, what you can do is when they wrote to me, they said it needs to be in the name of a person in the natural sense or in the name of a corporation. Well, we know our person is an implied corporation, and you can make the name of your trust into a company. So register it as a company, and it's a company limited by guarantee. And then that goes on the land registry.
That's correct.
I know one trick. I was going to say just one trick that my dad did when we was kids. Mm-hmm. I know this is a sneaky trick, but he said this is one way to get around it without going through all of that, all of that extra work. He said if you've got kids, put it in their name because they can't actually make any claim against the child. So anything in their name basically secures that asset, and that's what he used to do with us. This is why he had 5 kids.
I was going to say, what happens if that kid happens to be 15 and not quite 6, whatever?
Well, no, because you're the guardian of them, so you have to stand for them anyway.
Right, but when they become of age,
that's why you do it before. That's why you do it before that.
That's why you have the number of kids you have.
What about a dog? Can you put it in the name of a dog or a cat or a pet?
I'm not 100% about that, but I know that one.
Does a dog have a surname?
That was one trick that my dad did many years ago.
Well, my feeling on the names is whether you put it in the name of a trust or in another name, you need to have a paper trail to prove that that is your asset. Yeah. Once you get down to the pound, if your car is impounded, and say it was a mistake, they just took it because it was on your drive, for instance, but they didn't check, and they needed to give it back to you. If it's in the name of your dog or your cat, which I have heard people doing, how are you going to prove that that's your car? If it's in a private trust, you'll have your memorandum of trust, which you can carry around with you. And if it's in the name of your limited company, so a couple of weeks ago, you covered the limited company process, which I used on my car. So I incorporated my name a couple of years ago, and then I was playing around with how I could make that work for me while I was still working on the private trust side of things. So I put my car in the name of my limited company, which is dormant, and dormant limited companies can hold assets. So
So even though they're not trading, they can still have an asset.
That's very good to know.
I would say with the child side, though, you have all their identifying documents because you have their birth certificate and their all of their, like I said, documents. So
if you don't have children,
you have if you don't have children, then it's not a solution. But if you do, you've still got their actual legal documents that you can identify. The audit trail, essentially, because that's all it is an audit trail. So the paperwork's there, so you can go and claim it back.
Well, if your house is mortgaged, you can't change it on the land registry to any name, but you can still put your equity in the property in the private trust. So if your house was mortgaged, you couldn't put it in the name of your children, but you could put your equity in the trust to protect that side of it.
Brilliant.
Whilst we're talking of trust and whilst the screen's going up, there's somebody here, and Andy asks, Andy Barr, can I protect my bank account? Can I put that or protect it as a trust?
Your bank account?
Yeah.
Well, what you can do is when you set up your private trust and produce all of your documents, you can go to the banks that provide trust accounts and apply for a trust account for your trust and keep your bits and pieces in there. But that doesn't there's no interest on that. So you'd still be better off buying gold and silver if you wanted to keep it for the long term. But if you wanted short-term float of a couple of grand to keep you going, you could keep it in your trust account and just filter it out as you need to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it depends on the bank account type. So it's, what people need to understand as well is that you don't own your bank account. Any bank account, it's owned by the bank. Okay, all of them. Okay, the bank, and you are basically an unpaid administrator of that account. Now,
so when you say, sorry, Pete, sorry to just interrupt there. When you say you don't own the bank account, do you actually mean the money in the bank that you have deposited, or the account itself?
The account itself you do not own, and what deposit means is to depose, which means to give away. So when you deposit money into a bank account, you've given it away to the bank. It's theirs. Okay, and also you've got to ask yourself, what have you even deposited? And of course, it's Bank of England promissory notes, and they're not yours either. Okay, so the entire system is rigged where you don't know any of it. And I think someone just mentioned gold and silver, which is a very smart move. If you've got real life in savings and assets, go with physical gold and silver. By the way, have you seen gold recently?
Gone sky high.
You can't afford it now, can you?
I was telling everyone in 2015, I said, you want to get yourself into gold?
But it's also interesting, the language, isn't it? Because we're, under maritime law, when you're talking about banks and deposit and stuff like that, it's these words, they've been used against us, really. Can somebody talk about the words, banks, deposits?
Sure, absolutely. Now, I'm not trying to plug my book here or anything, but in my book,
25 quid.
Here we go, here it is. Anyway, what I've actually done, there's actually a chapter in here called Nautical Terms. And it goes through all those nautical words and what they mean, like bank and I'll have to read my own book.
Dock.
Dock. Yeah, it's all in here.
Well, were you talking about the riverbanks, Pete?
Yes, the riverbanks.
The water benches, riverbanks, flow, cash flow. When you get a float, head above water, loan sharks. It's all water terms.
Birth, when you're born, your birth,
yes.
But, the birthing canal. It's just amazing when you start looking into it. It's really interesting, actually. I would call it
goes right back to my childhood, talking of riverbanks, to Hammy Hamster's adventures on the riverbank.
Tales of the riverbank. It was lovely, wasn't it?
Was GP he was the guinea pig, wasn't he?
I don't know, but it was so happy and we were all innocent and lovely, wasn't it? And Mum would make you soup, Heinz soup and stuff. From a tin.
It doesn't have to be Heinz, by the way.
No, it doesn't, but it always seemed to be Heinz tomato soup. Anyway.
I was going to mention something about limited companies as well.
Yes, go for it.
Your car into trust and through. Now, the way it works is you can do all that. Now, it depends how determined the police are to get their pound of flesh, because they can still track down a legal persona through that system, because a lot of people don't realize what they're doing is when they say they're putting their car into trust, you're not actually doing that. What you're doing is you're putting the logbook into trust. That's what you're doing, because you put in the registered keeper. You can put the registered keeper down as a limited company. You can do that. However, when you register a limited company, you have to give the details of the director. So because you've got a document, which is basically DVLA, the information is still accessible, and it'll still say limited company, and the police will go, okay, fair enough, it's a limited company. Go on company's house. Yeah, okay, now we know who runs it. Who's the director? Oh, it's Joe Bloggs. Guess what? He's getting the speeding ticket. So it won't protect you from prosecution.
No, but it will protect your car from debt collectors, because they can't take something that's not in the name of the legal entity. Or legal fiction. So the limited company is a separate legal entity, and it's not yours.
Yeah. Can I ask, just interject a quick question here, in which I have to declare an interest. Well, I'm interested in all of it.
What's that?
Sure. I don't know what that was. Hey, I walk a million miles for what else. We're getting knocked off. If your name on the logbook is spelt incorrectly, because whoever sold you the car registered it with the DVLA, and they spelt your name incorrectly by just reversing two letters around or adding a different letter. firstly, is that still you? Well, it's not. No, it's not
That's
you.
not
as
you,
in-
you.
I know it's not you. You.
Yes.
That the you of
You,
you.
you.
But is it? Can the debt collector still come along and say, "We've got it for this bloke who's spelt, let's say, Vobef, and your name on, and I've corrected. The person might have corrected their V5. Could have been me. Could have been anybody." And they've changed it so it is actually now matching their driving license and all the other bits of paper. So it now says, say, Vobes. But they come along and they say, well, it says Vobef, and we're having your car.
You're absolutely correct. The name has to be precise. Now, I also want to cover the logbook itself, because even if you haven't put the car into trust, the debt collectors still do not have the right to seize that car at all, because it says on the document quite clearly that you are the registered keeper. Now, you've got to understand, with a car, there's at least 3 people involved. You've got the registered keeper. Now, the registered keeper is not necessarily the owner. And you've got the owner, and that's the owner is the person who's holding the manufacturer's statement of origin.
Not the receipt.
Oh, no, not a receipt, because this is where people go wrong again, you see. They think they've got the receipt to the car, and they go, no, you don't. You have the receipt to the title. Oh, yeah, Gary, you get it, mate. And I can see Gary nodding away. He's going, yeah. You don't have the receipt for the car. You bought a title. So, and I'll just tell you the third thing is driver. So you've got registered keeper, you've got owner and driver. They're 3 different people. So,
yes. Again.
Yes, guys. Yeah, nice one, buddy. He's not.
Well, yes, I can agree with the driver side, because a driver is somebody that goes on the road for commercial profit.
Correct.
So basically, you can't be a driver because you're not actually going on the road in your personal conveyance to actually make any profit from it. You're either going from A to B as a traveller, or you're actually going to give your time to somebody else for actually recuperation of funds based on that time or that sweat equity. So you're not gaining profit. There's no profit to be made.
No.
So just to pick up on Pete's point there about being a registered keeper and the debt collectors can't take your vehicle.
Now, this is the way it works. See, and here's the thing. I mean, these debt collectors are completely rogue at the minute. They're not even following their own paperwork, not even following anything at all. They're making up as they go along. But the way it should be done, using the legal system now, we're talking about their own rules and legislation and everything. Before the debt collector can seize anything, he has to prove the debtor owns the thing. He has to prove that. So the debtor would be the correct name on their paperwork, like Mr. Joe Bloggs, spelt correctly. And then it's up to the debtor. The burden of proof is it's up to the debt collector. The burden of proof is on him to prove you own the car. Now, the V5 doesn't do that. The V5 just says, I'm the registered keeper. I'm not the owner. In fact, it even says on it, this is not proof of ownership.
Yes.
Literally,
you could literally get the V5 and point and say, "Oh, yeah, mush." It says it. Got proof of ownership. Yeah.
So will they not say though the government own the car and just take it?
The DVLA are owners of the car.
Now,
so will they not just say,
"Well, you're the registered keeper from that trust on the car itself"? Because they hold the actual the manufacturer's statement of origin. So from there, they create the trust. The actual price of the car remains on the actual statement. You then get use of the car. Hence why I believe you pay a road tax, because you're paying the DVLA for the actual rent on the car that you've borrowed from them as a keeper. That's why I think the money's going. It's their profit based on that trust.
Well, they even call it vehicle tax now. They don't call it road tax. It's not for the roads. It's for them.
That's right. I think they call it road fund license.
My God, this gets deeper and deeper.
Yeah, because you're paying
just to get to the bottom of this with the debt collectors
let's go back
in the
to
car.
That,
To be clear, the debt collectors then the onus is on them to prove who owns the vehicle so they can take it. But all you can do is I'm the keeper, so they can say it doesn't matter to us because we're taking it from the owner.
Yes,
which it's the so the DVLA. But presumably DVLA isn't the one who's done the infringement.
Well, that's exactly right. This is the thing. Now, I'm not saying this is legitimate, because it isn't, because people have been tricked into this system, right? But it depends on why the debt collectors are then. And here's the thing. If it's a third-party debt collector, then you know he's a scam artist, right? Now, if it's an official seizure of the car, you won't be dealing with debt collectors. You'll be dealing with a court-appointed bailiff, essentially. Yeah.
Oh yes.
And it's a completely different game.
Usually two of them.
Exactly right. Gary's correct. Right. So that's the difference. If it was sorry, not genuine, it's all fraud. Now, you're absolutely right, Richard. The car itself is now property of the government through the DVLA. You've given it up. Now, the only way that the government can seize it is if you are violating one of their regulations. So, speeding tickets, all that nonsense, parking tickets, double yellow line sort of nonsense, right? Because they can seize it back. Now, if it's any other debt, if it's like council tax, you go, well, no, that's a private corporation. What's that got?
What about clean air zone?
Completely wrong. That's another thing as well. The clean air zone, you've got to ask who's actually charging that. Now, as far as I know, it's the council. It's operated and run through the councils.
Right. So they're not government.
No.
From what I found out, it's the Environmental Protection Department that actually deals with that. Because I had one sent to me, and I said, you can prove to me that CO2 is an actual poisonous gas. I will actually gladly play it.
Which is it's the gas of life.
Exactly.
Yeah, I suppose it's poisonous to whom?
Well, it's not poisonous. It's only
not
poisonous.
poisonous to us, is it?
Well,
No,
the thing
it might
is,
be poisonous to.
The thing is with the CO2 side, if it gets above 2%, then we're in trouble. Can only breathe for about 3 minutes at a time. But at this minute, we're only at 400 parts per million, which is 0.04% of the atmosphere. And of that influx, we are only responsible for 3% of that 0.04%.
It's a fraction.
We're going to get to a point where we start sharing oxygen. If you want some oxygen, I'll just give you a little bit of mine and pass it round. Oh, he's going blue in the face. Quick, give him some. Mm-hmm. It's just a nightmare.
It's bonkers.
There was an interesting question, just to move it on, from John Silver or somebody Silver.
About gold and silver?
About how do you insure a car in a trust?
You can find an insurance company that will insure, because as Pete's just said, there's the registered keeper and there's the owner and there's the driver. So when I changed mine into the name of my dormant limited company, I had to go back to my insurer and say that the registered keeper was different from the insured person. And some insurance companies will let you do that, some won't. They generally charge about £200 or £300 more. But at the time, someone I knew had had their car taken by debt collectors for council tax. So I thought, well, £300 would be well spent. And that's what I did. I just had to shop around to find another insurance company. But it's just the same as if you're a limited company operating your own vehicles. You would get insurance in that name, in the company name.
Well, so if you've got it in a company name, couldn't you actually essentially register yourself in the insurance as a named driver on that company car?
Well, you can do that, but it didn't even come to that for me, because I just switched it to my private trust. So there's a drop-down menu and it says, what are you? Are you a limited company, a private trust? There's about 10 different options for what you could be. So they're already set up for you to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's handy.
It's really good. You've made it so easy. They've made it so easy. Yeah.
I just want to add something about limited companies as well. Is that if you make it dormant, limited company, it's dormant. You have to be a little bit careful. Yeah, you can put assets in there, but if you start putting company cars in there, and
what you would do is you pay for the insurance from your legal fiction credit card. So you don't have a bank account for the limited company if it's dormant. I just paid for it with my normal strawman credit card.
No, yeah. What I'm trying to say is that Companies House might have a look at you and say, there seems to be a lot of activity for a dormant company. So this is why you've got to be a little bit careful about how much you can put into a limited company. Because it can raise questions, and you get some, because if you're not dormant, then you've got to put in tax forms and all the rest of the nonsense, and then you.
But you're only not dormant if you're trading. So if you've got a company bank account for your dormant limited company, you're not dormant straight away.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
But also, if you are dormant and you're putting cars into this, can you use the cars, because the cars aren't dormant? Would that have any bearing on it? Because you're going to be driving.
No, because the
You're
dormant
conveying,
limited.
you're travelling.
You're travelling. Sorry, you're
Not
conveying.
driving, for God's sake.
Not quite.
Sorry, Richard.
Not allowed to go driving.
If the car's registered, you are driving. You're driving a vehicle in commerce, I'm afraid. So a lot of people get caught out. They get pulled over by the police in a registered car and say to the policeman, "No, I'm just travelling, mate." And you go, "No, there's a number plate. It's licensed. It's a vehicle. You are driver." That's how they trap.
How does a car get registered anyway? Because it hasn't got arms and legs and it can't sign anything.
No.
Somebody else has to do the
Somebody
signing.
has to do
Yeah,
it.
the person who bought it was stupid enough to say yes. Because when they buy their Lamborghini at the Lamborghini shop and the Lamborghini salesman says, "Would you like us to register it for you?" The thickos go, "Okay, yes."
Okay.
But is that not a contract that is
Me.
actually not the meeting of the minds and full
You're right.
disclosure and all of that? So could you not
It's
argue
fraud.
that anyway?
You're absolutely correct. It is fraudulent because people don't realise what they're actually doing. But you're absolutely correct. But that's how they trap you. And that's why the police...
Yes, but most people don't know that, do they?
No,
because
they
we've
don't.
not been told. So it's not our fault.
No, that's why we're doing this. But also, just going back to that thing about a dormant company, surely the car has to be dormant, whether you're travelling, you're conveying, whatever you're doing.
No,
if you're moving the car.
The company is dormant, but a dormant limited company can hold assets. So the car is an asset of that company.
And you can use the asset as well, not just hold them. You can actually use the assets.
Well,
Yes.
the company's not using it. You're using it.
Right, you're using it.
Is that? Would that be right? It's not the
Yes,
company using
that's
it. It's
right.
the individual.
Because I'm paying for the insurance
And
with
the
my
petrol.
credit
Right.
card, and I'm not
you're a
using
straw
it
man.
as a company car. It's my private. I won't say conveyance because it is registered, and as Pete said, as soon as you've registered with the DVLA, you are a driver for DVLA. You're one of their employees, and
Yeah,
part
We
of
said pay you then.
Yes.
See, I don't know. I
shouldn't
quite understand.
should.
If we're an employee of these bastards, I mean
Give
these
us the
people,
money.
well, they never pay up. We expected about what job do you have to pay to do the job to be in?
And part of your job as an employee is to comply with their rules, which is the Road Traffic Act. So I've only used this to prevent the debt collectors for the council tax taking my car.
Yes.
As far as speeding and all that sort of thing is concerned, I wouldn't use it for that.
Well, we've covered a lot of questions in there. Shall we find some more
Another
questions?
one. I mean, Dorian Gray.
Dorian Gray.
Dorian Gray. He says Pete Wilson has covered all of this, which is great. Pete's coming on next Thursday, but we're going to get new viewers and people. We've got to keep going over and over this.
Oh,
haven't we,
so,
till
I mean,
people get it.
the advantage of a show like this is that people share it, and then
Yes.
other people come in. Oh, I missed that one. I'd
Yes.
love to ask this
So they
question.
come- yeah.
And also, different people, different panelists answer in different ways, as
Yeah.
you've seen.
Yes, and they have little chats between them, don't they?
Yeah,
Which is
we haven't had
helpful.
any punch-ups
Not
yet,
yet,
which
that's
is a
why we-
shame. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to a bit of action.
Yeah, but that's why you said you wanted to have them on Zoom. You didn't want them all in here in
Oh,
case.
I
they
know.
were-
I get a blooded nose.
We have got a question, if I can find it. How about something about a trust? Is a trust higher? Oh, yeah, here it is. So time goes by. 12. Is trust law above government legislation, and can I use for tax solution? If you know what you mean.
If I know what you mean. No, I mean.
Did you know what you mean? Does that make sense?
What was the question again?
Is
Can
trust
I...
law above
Chris-
government legislation, basically?
Chris Coverdale went through that a couple of weeks ago, and I think he's got one of the best solutions to tax and council tax, and that's by using a trust. It's just a different type of trust. The trust that the Sovereign Trust Online has is a private trust, and the one that Chris is using is a revocable trust. So you're saying if you conform to these points, like you're not funding terrorism, for example, at the end of the financial year, will give you this amount that's set aside in this bank account. A private trust works differently.
Is that people cannot, in a private trust, find out who the trustees are and the beneficiaries?
Well, if you apply for a bank account, they will ask you that. So we have a memorandum of trust, which gives a list of trustees and beneficiaries if you want to give them. But otherwise, it's supposed to be private. So you wouldn't reveal any of that information to anybody. But with your revocable trust for HMRC council tax that Chris has put together, which is really good, you're saying, okay, well, this is all the information. This is the bank account I've set aside for it. This is the number. It's all yours. if you can provide the answer to these questions.
Yes, and in his case, these questions are all to do with their own legislation. So,
well, you can put your own questions in as well. I mean, I've adapted Chris's trust for my own use, so I've thrown a load more stuff in there and adapted it to my own needs. I've also made the distinction in there that they've sent their request to a legal entity, and I, as a living woman, am autographing it. So I've in all my correspondence, I separate myself from this all caps legal fiction name, which they seem to like.
They like the legal fiction. Yeah, they probably don't like that you're a living woman.
Living woman. No.
But they can only deal with legal fictions. That's all they can deal with. That's all the legal system can deal with. It can't deal with the living at all. There's nothing set up for it. It's all.
But that's kind of why I made the stupid remark about a car can't register itself because it's got no arms and legs. You need a human or a human being, whichever way is the correct way of saying it, or somebody in a meat suit to actually physically write it on the car's behalf so it can be registered, because otherwise it's just an inanimate object, like a legal fiction, basically.
But just point out, when it comes to the actual trust itself, in the sense of the authority of the office that you actually stand in, because this is why you have to understand fiduciary law when it comes to the ecclesiastical understanding of where it actually originated from, because the first office is a divine office, which is obviously the unique collective awareness that they all swear an oath to, and then the next office is man and woman. And then basically you get, I think it's just let me get this right. It's then a superior office, and then an inferior office, and all magistrates are in an inferior office. This is why a man or woman stands higher in the court, because you stand.
Somebody should remind them
in a fiduciary position. Though you have a divine office, is like I say, which is what our public officials actually swear an oath to, which is a unique collective awareness under God.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the collective awareness is. This is why I was going to commend Sovereign Pete on what he's doing, having 15,000 people, because that creates dominion. And in fiduciary law, if you've got dominion and you've got 15,000 people that agree to actually operate under a certain unique understanding or a unique awareness, then you have dominion. That in itself creates political sovereignty, because you've got the body of the people behind you. And in fiduciary law, that makes the man and woman one of the highest offices under the divine office in fiduciary law. This is why.
So really, we need our own dominion then to get rid of
this
legislation.
Exactly, dominion is what we need.
Because also,
so you
Gary,
just need people. Basically, people you have, the more dominion you get.
And Gary, we were talking about in London, there's a certain communities that have already set that up, isn't there? Religious groups. You were telling me yesterday.
Well, no, it's not as much a religious group. If you want to actually know why our politicians are officially called ministers, is because the Westminster Assembly is not called the Westminster Assembly. It's called the Westminster Church Assembly, because they run under a religious fund.
Oh.
So basically, that's why they're called ministers, and mendicant ministers at that. So basically, all they do is they create what they call a position of a scrivener, which is just like an estate agent. They set up A and B, and they get a profit from the centre. Hence why 10% goes into the consolidation fund, because it's a scrivener payment for them.
Scriveners.
That's what
they are. Nice word, isn't it?
That's exactly what they are. They are
scriveners.
But they give themselves the divine office, because they actually swear an oath to that divine office, which then basically, like I say, puts them in a higher position to stand as our trustees. Hence why they see themselves as a loco parentis and us as incredulous parvulus, which means incredulous child.
I'd also say that the Bible gave us the first trust, which was between God as our creator.
No. There's no trust in the Bible.
And
there's no trust in the Bible.
Wait. Hold on, Pete. Let's sovereign trust.
Everything in the Bible is not self-evident.
I'll
point out two things.
Hang on.
That are not self-evident.
Hold on a second.
I don't know the person's name.
Shut up.
I'm going to give you the look. What is it? The look.
What's the
hang on. The look. Here's the look. That camera.
It's just when my male colleague tells that
didn't work.
story, nobody shouts him down. But I barely got my sentence out before I was able to finish that. So if you want to carry on.
No, please. Sovereign Trust. I did try to shut them down, but
They didn't see me looking. That's the problem.
they didn't see the look from Karen. I felt it. I can tell you.
Did you? Good.
Yeah.
Because it never normally
blimey.
works.
No, my left side's all freezing
Is
cold.
it? Is it? I'm
So,
sorry.
Sovereign Trust. Sorry, go back to the Bible.
So I was going to say that we already have dominion of the earth, and we are the beneficiaries. The Holy Spirit is the trustee. So when people talk about, well, paying for gas and electricity, Mother Earth makes oil, water. All of these things are natural resources, and they belong to us. So that was the first trust between God and man and woman.
Right. Which makes a lot of sense. But
Can I jump in now?
Yeah, Pete was disagreeing. So what's your...
You see, you can't have dominion and also be in a trust. That's the problem. So if you are in a dominion, you have full and total authority. Yeah, there is no other third party. There's no other parties involved. You have dominion. Here's the thing, right? People don't know what the word freedom means. It means free in my dominion.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cheers, buddy.
But in a trust situation, if you look at the private trust, the settler exits the trust and the whole situation the minute that they've handed over that property into the trust.
Yes.
So in that sense, as the beneficiaries, as man and woman, we are the beneficiaries of the natural resources of the earth.
But there's no trust. You see, if you can't be a beneficiary and also have dominion, it doesn't work that way.
Why? So, Pete, tell us why you can't have both. Then
The reason being is you're splitting the title. Yeah, I can see Gary on the other camera. And he's going.
Yeah, we can't see him. But, so, what do you mean when you just said for layman's for thickos like me,
right?
Who are very slow. When you say you can't split the title, you are splitting the title.
Let me give you an example, basically. Let me just give you an example of basically what he's breaking down here. Look at what's happening in London at the moment with basically Islam. They're actually, at this moment, they have their own police force, they have their own courts, which are Sharia courts, and they have their own housing department. How do you think that they got them set up? Because they have a unique collective awareness under Islam. They all agree to it, and so they actually have dominion. But then the trusts are in the actual dominion, because they actually give it power under their dominion, so the trust can exist.
So you can have both then?
So you can have both, but they can't exist together at the same title.
Exist together.
One's within the other.
Because you have the dominion, and then within the dominion, because you've actually given it enforcement power,
yes,
you all agree to it, then you can actually create the trust in there so it can be enforced. But it is separate to the dominion itself. The dominion gives it power, but the trust gives you then legal contracts and authority and terms and between you and the beneficiaries and anybody else that is maybe a secondary beneficiary to it, as long as they meet the terms and conditions. But they are separate to the dominion that they actually gives it the enforcement.
So I mean, I think everyone understands what allodial title means.
What does, just for those that don't?
Okay, let me expand on that allodial title. This is where so many people go wrong, and that's why they've lost everything, because they don't own anything. Allodial title means you have absolute ownership, rights, titles, certificates thereof of the thing, right?
Yes.
In other words,
fee simple, absolute. Yes.
Absolutely, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. So it means that no other party can make claim to it. There is no higher authority. That is yours. The thing that you have, and you say, I've got a allodial title of this thing, I own it, absolute. No other third party can get involved. They can't say, you've got to pay tax on that. Go, what do you mean I've got to pay tax on that? Where's your claim? I've got a allodial title on this. How can you make a claim upon me that I've got to pay tax on it? So,
and where do you get your laudable title from?
From yourself.
You're
That's
claiming
the only
it.
place you can get it from. You cannot get it from the legal system.
Okay, so understand that. Go to the point that you were going to make with the allodial title.
So dominion. This is where man. So man is supposed to have dominion. Okay. So dominion means he is total authority. No one is above him. No one can tell him what to do. He has full and complete control. Now, if I've got dominion, right, I can create trusts within that dominion if I wish. And all a trust is basically a contract between two parties. And that's all it is. And you're splitting the title. So what you do, and in layman's terms, if you've got an object like a car, I can split the title now within my dominion. So my dominion is supreme. In my dominion, I set up a trust. And I can say this car has equitable title, which is the value. And I can also say it's got user rights. And I can split those separate titles, and I can put one in a trust, give it to someone else, charge for it. And I could give the other title to someone else. I could say, okay, you can use it, but I still hold the equitable title. But I can only do that in my dominion. And this is where people go a little bit wrong with the Bible, because they say that the earth is put into trust by God. And, well, there's a big problem with that because, by the way, not everybody believes in God. And, by the way, there's so many different religions, they believe in different gods. So which God was it who put the earth into trust? You see, the church did a big scam. They did the unum sanctum. They did this big claim that that God gave us, put the earth into trust, and they're the trustees, the Vatican, and they're supposed to look after the world for us.
Sovereign trust. Do you want to come back on that?
Sure.
Well, that was the Vatican's attempt at taking away our souls, taking away our land, taking away everything from us. So yes, they did do that, but why did they need to do that? Because we were already the beneficiaries. That's why they had to come in and take it off us.
Oh, it was a power grab. They took it off us because they were greedy, corrupt people, and they wanted all the assets.
Well, yeah, because men and women owned it originally.
Well, I would say, if you want to actually see what true evil is from the actual understanding from the Greek, which is exes, which means extisios, it means evil equals excess. So those that love excess are the real evil, because this is why they say the love of money is the root of all evil. Why? Because it's the love of it, the desire of it itself that drives them to excess, and excess is evil.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question here that Slim has put very loudly in the chat, and he says, question. Is it the case that sovereign people spend all their time in litigation and arguing with bailiffs, as it seems to be the case?
I've not had one bailiff at my door. Well, not a debt collector. It would be a debt collector at your door, just to make that distinction. And I haven't had one at my door in 3 years of not paying, because I do my paperwork. And once you've done the paperwork once, you've got your own set of templates. I don't use other people's templates. So yes, I do take the time to write my own. But for me, that's time well spent, because I stopped watching TV 20 years ago. So I've had a lot of time to read a lot of books about spirituality, about nutrition, vaccines. I did the whole thing over 15 years. And the last thing I got to was common law and sovereignty. And so if people don't think it's worth putting a couple of hours a week, I mean, Sovereign Pete's website, when I first got introduced to that, I thought was amazing. And I still recommend that to people, because it's putting the power in your hands to write your own paperwork, instead of people charging, at the time, people were charging £30 a letter for templates. And that was wrong, because they were being spoon fed and then didn't know why they were doing something. So I would say it's your choice if you want to be sovereign. And if you want to carry on funding,
I agree with you.
but if you want to pay council tax, utility bills, and allow that to happen, and you've got a good job and you're earning money and you enjoy doing that, I'll leave you to it. I'm not trying to convince anybody to be sovereign, but if you are, then it's worth doing the research to know and stand in your own power.
So let me ask you another. Sorry, I don't know whether you've got any questions, Karen, but I've just taken it over.
Yeah, no, take it. It's your show.
Oh, thanks very much. Hang on a second. Hold on a second. I've forgotten my question.
Gary's got his hand up.
Well, I was just going to point some
questions. Go on, Gary.
I was just going to point some out about the common law that everybody needs to understand. Firstly,
yes.
What the common law is. Firstly, it is an act of voluntary servitude, because you're taking an oath. So it is another form of slavery, because you are taking an oath to the common law, and there are no rights in common law. You have privileges under the common law that you have to declare. Although if you don't declare the right, you don't have it, because it's not self-evident in the common law, because there are only privileges that declare those rights. So it's still a form of voluntary servitude. It is voluntary, so you are voluntary putting yourself over to the common law, but it still is a form of servitude.
I would also say that
do remember that.
A distinction as well, in that the system took over the use of the term common law to describe case law. So when something goes to court in the higher courts and the judge passes a ruling, then we have case law, which sets a precedent, which is often referred to in the legal system as common law. And it's lost the meaning of being the law of the land, or ens legis, whereby under Magna Carta, there was the tenets of cause no loss, harm, injury, do no fraud. So those are the basic tenets under natural law, where you've got your inalienable rights, they're God-given, no matter who your God is, the right to bear arms, the right to earn money. You know, they had no right to take away our right to earn a living during the lockdown. But that was for the legal entity under the Coronavirus Act.
The subordinate legislation, which had no power.
Yeah.
Well, I worked on that case with basically Francis Hall on the Simon Dolan case, and learned all about that. And the ultra virus that was committing at the time, because Parliament was being prorogued. So how could they bring something into power when the actual government had already been prorogued? I don't get it.
I just want to add as well about common law. The thing is if you use common law today, that is basically a corporate jurisdiction that's under the control of the Bar Association.
It is now, unfortunately,
It is, and so if you go into these courtrooms saying I'm operating under common law, the judge is going to laugh at you and decimate you.
And then some. I would say if you go into court, you argue the facts from law, you accuse them of what they breached and how it's impacted on you. That's the best way to approach it. Seriously, go in, literally arguing the facts, accuse them of what they've actually breached in their legislation and how that's impacted on you. Never let the legislation protect you, otherwise it puts you straight back into maritime law. 100%. You want to stay in a lawful position, and a lawful position is arguing from the facts from law. You never argue the law. Law is never argued, so that you always argue from the facts. Basically, you accuse them of what they've breached, how that's impacted on you, so you can then get redress for that impact. That's the best way to do it.
I think this is why it's really important to be sovereign, to understand it yourself rather than pass it on to somebody else or pay somebody. Because I think in in the days gone by, we've all said, oh, how do we do this? I'd really like to pay somebody to do it. But then you're not understanding. And it's so important to really be truly sovereign. You have to understand what you are, who you are, and the rights that you have. And to fire back all this stuff, like you say, to use their legislation against them.
Well, this is what I was saying about tactical civics. This is why I commend Pete, because, like I say, and everybody else that's appeared, because they're actually engaging in the tactical civics. And the only way, because you've got to remember that it is a war in the courtroom. It is a war between these corporations. And like I said, this is what will tell you it is a war, because in common law, there is an actual doctrine that you can use called demera, and it means a cease to the fighting. And that is in the courtroom. If it wasn't a battle, then why would there be a cease to the fighting? If it wasn't a war that you were going into.
It is a war. Things take time, don't they, to evolve. And if you think, the last few years, what we've all gone through, and, people have come and gone, and people have invested in certain organisations or belief systems thinking that they're going to be helped. They've lost houses, they've lost money, lots of things have gone. But what has happened now is we have people like yourselves on Richard's show that really know the stuff. And I think that's a great thing, because now it is really a time to create this dominion and to take it to the next level and to walk the talk. So we're getting the questions here, which is great, and people saying, what do I do? But not everybody's doing it, and we do need to come together and do it.
Well, that's another thing. Sorry.
So I was going to say that those people who were ripped off, I wasn't ripped off. And I saw all those things going on around me. And I only ever went to talks where people were asking for donations. Or you had Robert Odek on the other day. I bought his Diffusing the Debt Bomb early on, and he was only charging £30.
Oh, you've gone.
Have you disappeared?
£30 for it. And it was a fantastic tool. So good people.
You just went. How much did you? We lost you. You said you only paid, and then you disappeared.
I paid £30 for
£30.
diffusing the debt bomb, which was produced by Robert Odek, who Richard had on the other day. Yeah. So I think there always have been good people out there, like Pete. Also from the beginning, I went to his website and all the information was there. It's just I do think that some people don't want to commit the time to doing the research, and they see that paying someone else is a quick fix. And with sovereignty, it has to take us all the way back to basics, and we have to do it ourselves so that we get that solid understanding. So if somebody did end up at the door, which has never happened to me, I know what to say, because I'm standing in my truth and in my power under natural law in my dominion.
And the thing is, we've come into that culture where the government has swept in and decided, we'll do everything for you to make you actually like jelly, unable to do anything and reliant on other people. And I think that's the thing that we're all learning, isn't it?
We've got to take back responsibility. When I help people, I say to them, you need to go away and you need to read this. I've put together a lot of information, and so have my colleagues. So it's easy now to go away and do the reading.
No, I mean, I totally get that, because this is, but law, of course, or legal things have been made to sound and look very complicated, and of course the court system is very scary in and of itself to people who've never done it. But I think we're in this process now of taking back everything from what we eat. Instead of going to convenience shops and things, we're beginning to learn we need to do everything, or at least have the knowledge to do everything, and those that we trust close to us.
Well, that's what I was going to say about infantilization, essentially. That's what's happened for decades. They've infantilized people again and again and again. And they've actually took more and more knowledge out of the education system, because I haven't even noticed it over the last 10 years, just in, my actual, the subject, obviously, I was first trained in, which was psychology. And when I've taught that, it's gone from a very scientific, basically, pursuit to now talking about relationships and how do we live together but apart?
Yes, it's a very sad thing. Can we just move on to? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, talking about how we've given away our power. I went to get some little dog tags for my dogs, carved this week, and I just casually said, I think it's illegal, unlawful. I think by law, all our dogs have to have their name collar on their collars.
Do they?
Apparently, and if you don't, guess what?
What?
You'll find £600. £600 if your dog hasn't got his name on. Look, and I mean, it's
can you not just ask the dog? Question, what is your name? My dog's name's Woof.
I know, it's balmy, because a lot of people will probably go along and pay the fine.
I heard that cats are the next one. You've got to have them chipped.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have you? And it's like the poo
fish.
bags.
Apparently, fish you've got to have battered.
That's right.
What with fish and chips? I mean, it's a nightmare.
And the chips.
I just want to move this on to a question. A question here from. This might be a bit contentious, but I'm up for it. John Enoch Powell, MBE, says, raised from the dead, says, as Muslims who use their living area within their own homes as a place of worship are exempt from paying council tax, would that not be a similar solution for people? Could they say that their house is a, Christian or somebody who just meditates and say...
I know somebody who's done that recently. He's just sent me all the information through on how to do it.
He's not gets Muslim. Away with it?
Yeah, because it's a separate department that you go to.
I mean, I know it sounded a bit like it was a bit thick, but if you can get, if you are deeply religious and you believe that your cat is the thing that you bow down to in the morning and you feed it religiously, morning, noon, and night, and it purrs at you, then and it gets you not having to pay your council tax because it's a place of worship.
It's a divine office. That's what it's called, a divine office. And, so basically, you sit in a divine office.
Perfect.
Don't forget, though, there is a trap there. Okay.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
There usually is.
There's always a trap. Well done, Peter. What's the trap?
You should never, ever...
Always a catch.
Yes, there's always a catch. You should never, ever use an exemption.
Yeah.
All right? The reason being is if you use an exemption, you're accepting the contract. All right?
Right.
You've just accepted the obligation as well. So if you take, exemption, saying, I live in a church now, so I don't have to pay council tax, you've accepted the obligation to pay it, and you've accepted a jurisdiction that has granted you the exemption. Because the sovereign doesn't exempt himself from anything because he doesn't have to.
No, but some people may not want to necessarily be completely sovereign, just not pay the council tax.
I'll tell you the trap.
Go on.
Because the problem you've got is if you accept that exemption, they could take it away. And now you're done.
Yeah.
And now you're done. And then they'll come for you. And they'll even backdate stuff as well and says, well, you've accepted it. And you go, oh, what am I going to do now?
I'll invite them to my cat worshipping party.
I think that's a great thing what you've just said then, because when we've just gone through this thing over the last 4 years, and a lot of us didn't acquiesce, and we chose not to wear the lanyards saying I'm exempt. We just said no, I'm not going to do it.
Correct.
And and I think that's a massive point, because obviously the lanyards help. And a lot of people did that because they didn't have the courage or the knowledge or the wisdom or the support to stand up in their sovereignty. But
I think there's different levels for people, though. And the chap that I spoke to, he home educates his children and does a lot of yoga teaching and work in the community and that kind of thing. And he's super busy. And he's one of the people who phones me up and says, there's somebody on my doorstep and what do I do? Because he's not paying for stuff and he's doing his best. But for him, he felt that was the best way for him, and it's all about options for people.
And people are on a journey, so presumably at first they may say, well, I'm not yet ready to do the whole hog. I'll bow down to my cat and not pay the council tax, whatever the thing is. And maybe later on, presumably you can switch on. You can become sovereign at any time you wish.
It's a mindset. It's you've got to decide to do it. Yeah,
yes.
It does take courage. It does, because when you become sovereign, you are saying, I am responsible for my own life.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, that's what men are supposed to do. So if I look at any man and he's not sovereign, I go, what are you then? You're still a child? You're still at home? Who's responsible for you then?
I am at home quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, but it's your home.
It's your castle. It's your castle. Yeah.
Well, this is where I seek shelter.
The castle. And David Edelman said the other day, he just made a comment, grow up, which says a lot, doesn't it? Grow up, because grow up, man up.
Fantastic.
I've got a question.
Go for it.
It's not my question. So Dr. Dawson here says, what if you what if you have built 3 houses on private land, done legally through planning, and not registered your house to land registry, and not signed off by the architect? Which is it? Which is now in a lawful trust?
Right. Well,
does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And unfortunately, I just noticed one massive mistake. He just said done through planning.
I was just about to.
Did you notice that?
I agree.
For the building and planning.
So you've gone into
you're in a lot of trouble already.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what are you saying that you'd buy a piece of land, register that on land? I mean, you have to register it because you can't buy otherwise unless you just
you buy it with gold and then you own it. You get a laudial title.
Okay, so let's say you've got your land,
yes.
However you've come across it. Are you saying that if you were to build your own house, and this is something that many people are looking to do, don't look at me.
No, I'm not looking at you,
on land, away from everybody else, you may be wanting to be a bit off grid and not to deal with all these idiots. And if you don't go through the planning, of course they don't like that. But are you saying that's the trap?
That's the trap. You've just asked. You just ask permission.
Yes. But will they not come along and then say, according to my bit of paper here, you shouldn't have done this. And we're coming down with these bulldozers and we're taking it down.
Okay, well, there's 2 levels to this. First of all, lawfully and legally, they cannot do that, okay? Because if you do truly own that land and you've got a laudial title of that land and you own it outright, you could do whatever you want with it. And they do not have the right to even step on your land, okay? In fact, it would be an act of war. That's what it is. Now I can see Gary on the other screen. He's putting his thumbs up.
He's jumping up and down again.
It's an act of war because they do not have the right. Again, that's my dominion. And I go, I own the land. That's my dominion. What are you doing on it? So they have no jurisdiction. So lawfully and legally, they do not have the right. Now, here's the thing within commerce. In their system of commerce, right, there's no involuntary servitude, which is what Gary mentioned earlier. So they can't force me. They can't force me off the land. They can't bulldoze my house or anything like that because that's an act of war. That's violence. And the pen is not going to help you at that point. You put the pen down, you pick up the sword, fighting starts.
And the police won't come and drag you off and all of that.
Police are corrupt. They'll do anything. They don't care.
Well, yes, but I mean, the thing is, people don't want them to. They don't want to be in that position.
Well, I say if you want to go a step further, once you've got a allodial title, you can actually turn that piece of land into its own state.
Yes.
And actually create a country out of it.
You can have your own flag.
Perfect.
You can, yeah. There's a guy in America that did it, and they actually went to war with him.
Yes.
Well, that sounds great.
So, but yeah, here's the thing about paperwork, right? People have got to get this out of their heads, and there is no such thing as paperwork that will stop criminals, right? So if the police want to act criminally, there is no paperwork that's going to stop them. So there's no stopping them. The only way you stop them is through numbers. And that's with us. And that's why I set up the sovereign fraternity, so brotherhood, okay, of individual sovereigns in individual dominion, connected. Yes. That's how we put an end to
unique collective awareness. That's the unique collective awareness is what exactly he's talking about. And this is why I commend people like Richard as well, because Richard's bringing all the viewers together and all the people that he is together. They're creating a unique collective awareness between them, which is exactly what we need, because it's like we said, it's like Peter said, numbers is what we need. Yes. It's might of a right, and to have the might, you have numbers. Simple as.
Well, let's get this Voberland up and running.
Yes.
Or whatever. So the next question then has to be: you're buying somewhere. If you haven't got enough gold, but you've got the money.
Yes.
To buy it, and you want to buy it, how do you turn a freehold into an allodial title?
Yeah, that's very difficult. The land
presumably they don't want you to do that.
They don't. You're absolutely correct. They don't. They'll stonewall you and all the rest and bluff it. Now, here's the thing about why the system is so fragile, because it's one giant bluff. We now know that all these government agencies are nothing but corporations, and they're actually business corporations now. They're all registered on Companies House. They've all got DUNS numbers and all the rest of it. That argument is gone. That's not a debate anymore. So if anyone goes, government,
well, what I would say to back that
people
up,
do still tell me, I get them saying, no, that's not true.
On Duns and Bradstreet, it actually said, individuals are exempt. If you have registered in the UK or Ireland as a business, you are automatically sent one. That's what it says on their website. Literally says it. Individuals are exempt from claiming a DUNS number, but if you are registered as a corporation in the UK or Ireland, you are automatically sent one.
It does. It does.
Right.
I don't understand anybody who doesn't understand this. It's that simple.
Okay. So go back to the fragility.
Fragility.
Thanks.
Now, here's the thing. Now we know everything is a corporation. Corporation means dead entity. And we know it's a business corporation. Before 1973, it used to be a regal corporation run by a monarch. And now it's all business. Okay. All businesses, UK corporations, the same as McDonald's. Exactly the same.
Right.
Now, I know the 12 hidden rules of commerce. And I know even in their system, it says no involuntary servitude. And everyone has the right to terminate contract. And you have the right to rescind your signature. All right. Even in their system, it says this. I know I have those rights anyway, because my rights come from me. And of course, I know I can terminate any contract. So I just terminate with the land registry. I don't want to use their service anymore. Thank you very much. Please return all the documents to me. Thank you very much. They're mine now.
And will they return them to you?
Absolutely not.
We knew that. We all knew that, didn't we?
Yes.
So you paint this wonderful picture.
I know.
But how do you do it then?
Right, this is how it's going to work. This is why I'm setting up. This is why I set up the Sovereign Fraternity, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I'm setting up chess clubs and lone knights all over the planet, because we all do it. All right, we get couple of million globally doing this. We're all networked. Then we all put our paperwork in. It's checkmate. It's checkmate, because we have the power, we have the numbers. Yeah, see, go with the thumbs up. That's how it's done. And we tell them, I'm not asking permission anymore. I'm not getting into debates. I'm just telling them, I don't want to deal with you. Thank you very much. I want to take my property back. And I've got 2 million people in my network. Do you want to mess with us?
Needs to happen. It's happening. It's happening.
It's happening.
It needs to happen. Yeah,
it's
happening
right now. It's literally might of a right every time, because that's what they've used for decades. Might of a right every time. But so you need to just switch the table, turn the tables on them, and go right now. I've got the might.
We've got the dominion.
We've got the dominion.
You see, I've learned something. I mean, I've learned a lot on every show, but the particular thing I'm going away with is the Dominion.
The Dominion.
Correct. Freedom.
Not Domino's.
No, not Domino's.
Thank you, Pete. Freedom. Thank you. It is free in my Dominion.
Yeah.
Free in my Dominion.
Talking of dominions, let's go to Scotland because we've got Tracy McCallum with a question. Everything seems to be aimed at England and Wales. We know Scots law is slightly different, but do the same principles apply? We have sheriff officers, sheriff courts.
Okay. Yes, they do apply. Now, here's where people are going wrong again. There's Scotland, all uppercase. Yep. Do you see my finger, everybody?
Yeah, I mean business. Oh, we got two now. I'm firing all cylinders.
The Ministry of Wagging Fingers.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen,
you said it's
an hour and 22 minutes into it on a Friday night. I hope that Sovereign Trust you're doing this.
Yes, Sovereign.
Yeah, I'm watching.
Are you doing it?
You've got to join us. Join our dominion of finger wagging.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
We got to do. This is why I have a tendency to lock my fingers together when I'm talking to someone and like a policeman because I don't want to kick off.
Do that.
You'll be poking.
Yeah, because I end up doing this. So it ends up with that, and then
oh dear, we don't want that. We're peaceful, loving people.
We're very honourable.
That's we are. We're
honourable finger waggers.
So anyway, going back to Scotland.
Wouldn't that be great though? Really, Pete, all your people. Can you just imagine having a party and we're all just doing that? It would be amazing. Would that be our message?
I was going to say that it was said in Ferris Bueller when he said about understanding makes it. What did he say? Understanding makes it acceptable for us to tolerate people like you.
Yeah.
And he says that, and I thought that was one brilliant phrase that he said in there about basically understanding that helps us tolerate people like you.
Yeah.
Hence why we do this
That's
a lot.
Right. I do that. I lock my fingers together and I twiddle my thumbs like that.
Sit on your hands.
And then start rocking on my. And when I start rocking on my toes, it's going to kick off.
So listen, we go back to serious because no name's not very impressed with us. He says these clowns, especially the bald goatee, which luckily isn't me.
It's not me.
Are in the worst delusional state.
We're having a bit of laugh, bit of fun. Come on,
I know that exactly. I know.
You don't want to be doing the doom and gloom all the time. You've got to laugh it off.
You've
got to laugh it off. Come on.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll go back to being serious again. Okay.
Yes, just for a moment.
Just for a moment.
You, Jimmy.
So Scotland, yeah. Now, what people have got to understand, they've got to separate the land from the corporation. Okay. So if you've got Scotland, I'll say, okay, then what you're referring to, the land I'm standing on, or you're referring to Scotland, the corporation, because they're completely separate things entirely. And people have still not woken up to this. I'll give you an example, right? A lot of people say to me, they live in the UK. And I go, really? You live in a corporation? Okay, that's magical. I don't know how you manage that. And they look at me and think, oh, the land I'm standing on, that's UK. It's the UK, is it? Okay, so let's say your right foot is in the UK. Can you please tell me where my left foot is in England? And then look at me gone out. And I go, where's England then? And they go, I don't know. Okay, then. What about British Isles? Have you heard of that one? Well, how about Rule Britannia? That song, what was that about? Where's Britannia? Can you tell me where that is? Where's my foot? Where am I standing on these things? And the average pleb has been so brainwashed, they can't figure this out because they are all corporations. All right. So Scotland, England, Wales. In fact, England as a corporation ceased to exist in 1707. And you've got people going to football matches going, England. And I'm going, that country doesn't even exist anymore, mate.
Hey, okay, but Pete, I am going to pull you up. You can't talk to ordinary, lovely people as plebs, because the thing is, because you're effectively insulting me as well.
No,
we're all learning. We're all learning, and we're all at a different stage. And some people just do not know, and that's not their fault. We've been pushed into a system that we never asked to go in.
I think Pete's talking in the vernacular, Richard.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm deflecting.
I would say United Kingdom is a legal jurisdiction for the legal entity to act as an implied corporation. Yeah. And when you register your name or the legal entity as an express corporation through the limited company process on Companies House, they actually throw in a couple of things now that they didn't used to do before, and they give you the option of ticking the box to be Mr., Mrs. or Ms., which they never used to do. And they also give you the option of living in England or in the United Kingdom. So they're actually trying to trip you up by going through that process. And recently a credit card company wrote to me. They wrote to my legal entity, legal fiction name, and put United Kingdom under my address, under the postcode. And then on their side, they put themselves on the right-hand side as the creditor, me as the debtor. And on their side, they said that their corporation was in England. So they're playing around with these jurisdictions all the time. It's just we're not noticing it.
Yeah,
do you think that's deliberate and not just a mistake, that they just don't know what they're doing?
It's definitely deliberate, because they're two separate funds. The UK is a separate fund, so England. There's two separate funds that run those, which are religious funds, by the way.
Yeah.
So go back to Scotland then, Pete, just to finish that question.
Well, the one in Scotland, they're actually run through the Presbyterian Church. So basically that's where their fund is coming from. I know where the fund is for Scotland, which is the Presbyterian Church. That's how they created an assembly with Westminster Church Assembly, because they needed a church assembly in Scotland and Wales to create the assembly of the Parliament.
And the laws, the laws that were different, you were saying, Pete, that
they're just corporate policies. Don't use them. It's like England has got McDonald's and Scotland's got Burger King.
The Local Government Finance Act is for legal entities and persons in the unincorporated corporation. So it'll be exactly the same in Scotland. It'll just be a different act.
Right.
And you just deal with, like you said, sheriffs, where we deal with bailiffs. That's the only difference, really.
So even though
we have sheriffs here, because we have a sheriff of Hull, and he's Peter Mandelson. I wish it wasn't Peter Mandelson, but it is. But we have a sheriff, because the thing is, the reason that Hull needs a sheriff, because it's still a shire of the monarchy, hence why we have the 3 crowns in Hull. And like I say, anybody that wants to collect a debt outside of Hull, in Hull, has to ask the sheriff of Hull first before they collect it. That's one of the powers that you have in Hull.
Does this go back to like the Sheriff of Nottingham and things like that?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But it's just it's not pronounced sheriff, it's sheriff, because it's the reef.
Like Omar. Omar. I had a thing for him. He was really lovely, but let's leave that one there.
No, was it? Tell us about your thing.
His eyes. He just has lovely eyes. It's anyway.
It's a shire reef. That's where sheriff.
A Shire reef.
Oh, Shire, like Wiltshire.
Yeah, but basically, it's like, but
Lancashire.
Somerset.
Oh,
no, wait a minute. Somerset Shire isn't a shire, is it?
No, Somerset Shire. No,
sorry.
The reason that Hull is still a shire, basically, is Hull is the city and the county, which give it the East Riding, which made it basically a complete shire. And obviously in Hull, we used to have the King's Armoury in Hull, so we used to protect England from here. Basically, so from Hull, we had the King's Armoury here.
So you used to protect England for us?
No, we used to have the King's Armoury. So any time that a war started, they had to come to Hull first to get their stuff, so they could go to war.
Hull Shire.
And well, it's actually Kingston upon the River Hull. So it's not actually called Hull; it's called Kingston. But we're the only town in England that's named after the river, even though it's not the name of the town. It's called Kingston, which is named after Kingstown, which gives us the crown.
Is that what they're singing in Old Kingston Town? That
no, that's
Jamaica.
That's
Jamaica.
Is that Jamaica?
It's a bit about Marley.
It's actually Kingstown upon the River Hull, because they used to use the River Hull to actually bring the boats up so they could dock, so the king could get out and come into the gates of Hull. There used to be 5 gates around Hull that used to shut off the armoury.
You've just given us a fantastic little history lesson.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing. I bet many people in Hull don't even know that.
It just means all it means is that the king is our landlord, because we're the shire of the monarchy. So we might as well be in the Buckingham's backyard, because he's our landlord essentially. Hence why basically Prince Charles came about 10 years ago to renew the charter in Hull for another 99 years. So we had freedom of the city.
Mind you, he might not actually be around anymore.
No.
Well, I did see him, because me and my mate started chucking eggs at his car.
I think that's one of those, isn't it?
Very laudable thing to do.
We've upset Alice.
Because his chair runs on Cherry and old Shandy and old cake, dairy, Madeira cake, and I don't know. He did say so. Anyway, sorry, I haven't lost it.
Jump in about authority though, because a lot of people are saying, we have sheriffs and all the rest of it. Well, as Gary was mentioning, that's for the king, in layman's terms, and so that would only apply to a subject to the king. And if I'm not a subject to the king, then that sheriff has no authority.
Exactly.
So that's how it works. Same with the police, the modern day police. Well, it's only if you're a citizen of the UK. Well, I'm not a citizen of the UK.
No. You're a living man.
Exactly.
Alice, we've upset Alice, I'm afraid.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, Alice.
Sorry, Alice. It says, anyone listening to your babble,
yes,
because we used babble earlier, didn't we, are mad. Look for genuine people who do not charge for anything. I assure you they are out there doing it years before these.
Well, that's what we've all been doing.
But I've been doing it for years.
Exactly.
I don't charge anybody for anything.
But some of you need to
over the
charge.
last 15 years.
It's all free. It's all free on Sovereign Pete's website and on our website.
So what do we do to Alice? I think we need to do this to Alice.
And anybody watching today's show, just to say this, sorry, anybody watching today's show, you won't have been charged.
No, freebie.
It's totally free.
We're doing this for free.
Oh, Gary's good. Gary's doing it as well.
Under the law, basically, anybody can actually conduct any actual action that a solicitor would take. They just can't charge for it. Hence why, under the law, we have to stick to that stipulation that if we're acting as a solicitor for somebody or an advocate, we can't then charge for our service because we haven't actually passed the bar to have a license to charge for it. So under the law, we can act as a litigant friend or basically an advocate or a representative for that person. And we can actually practice all the things and prepare a case and do everything a solicitor would. We just can't charge for it. This is why the last 15 years I ain't charged a penny to anybody because I can't. The most I've accepted was a big bag of meat.
Yeah, donations, not a
big bag of meat.
Yeah, meat.
Meat.
I think it's fine to accept donations for your time.
Yes.
If you're educating people and people don't want to read the free information that's on the websites, that's their choice.
Yes, I mean donations. You can't stop somebody donating you with something.
It's a choice. Absolutely, it's a choice.
Just one thing, if you don't mind, I'd add it.
Of course we mind. Of course we mind.
But I'd say don't pay up front large sums of money, okay? Because there's a lot of scammers out there, and they'll say, pay us £3,000-5,000, we'll get rid of your mortgage or anything up front. You go, hang on a minute, no. So don't do that. Research these people first. This is why the Sovereign Project, we give the information for free. We've got free workshops. I do free podcasts. The information, you can download it. And if you like what we do, fine. Buy a book, buy a T-shirt, sign up for the online course. Not a problem. Yeah. So, and if I do a speaking event like tomorrow, I think I'm at
Southampton tomorrow.
Yeah, I am.
You are speaking tomorrow. I'm going to prod you. I'm going to be doing this at you.
Yes. But yeah, I've done speaking events where there's tickets, so I get paid a little bit out of that.
But it's an exchange, isn't it? You can't just give all your time for free.
Anyway, our event tomorrow, Pete, is purely entertainment, and if people come back and they've learnt something, well, that's their own affair. We didn't ask them to learn it.
So
we didn't ask them to use their brain. It's not our fault.
No, it's a choice. Molly Jones has a question. She says, does that exemption apply to income tax?
What exemption is this?
I don't know. Something we must have discussed earlier.
Yeah, all exemptions. Every single exemption. If you accept an exemption, an exemption refers to a policy within a contract.
Yes.
Yep. So if you accept it,
it's like a mandate. It's like a mandate in a contract.
Yes.
It's a clause within that you actually agree to actually do.
Yeah.
Basically, voluntarily, gratuitously, and with your consent.
Yes. We were talking about it earlier, weren't we? With lanyards and stuff.
Yeah. It does make sense because if you agree to an exemption, you've agreed to something.
Their system, to what they've put out there. Yeah. So Toby, I'm not going to be able to say this word. Toby Henderson says, have any panel members heard about returning the usufruct?
Usufruct.
Oh, there you go.
Is that like in a church where you wear one of those funny things? It's a bit grubby now.
That's a frock. That's a frock. That's a used frock.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what's the word?
A usufruct. It's gone.
Yeah, usufruct. It's a word meaning trust.
Right.
Ancient terminology.
Oh, okay. So returning and all future earnings to the Crown. So have any panel members heard about it? Returning the usufruct and usufruct duties and all future. You can just say yes or no, really, to that one, can't you?
Well, hang on a minute. Just before you just say yes or no.
I'm being funny.
So Whose usufruct is it that you are Are you, as an ordinary person, returning it to somebody else, or are they returning it to you?
You're returning it to them.
And how did you know you had it in the first place?
Yeah, you probably didn't. You discovered it. You might have followed some of our work, like Gary's work, and sorry, I don't know the lady's name, but
the
No,
sovereigntrust.net is her
Oh,
name.
okay.
Yes,
Well,
or
what-
Roger.
yeah,
We call her Roger.
We call it a Roger.
What he's
Roger,
getting
okay.
what he's getting at is the person, basically, when you was born and they actually set up the trust, somebody put an amount of money in there, which you don't own. So when you actually close down the trust, you give them back that, and then you can, under the Cestui Act, Section 4, if once you've proved you're alive, you can actually then claim the profit and the accumulated interest from the start of the trust. But you can't claim the trust itself. That's what you're retaining. Is
Oh, I see.
that,
So
that,
this
that
is
initial
correct.
money that actually set up
Right.
the trust in the first place? You'd never own that
No.
because somebody
Right.
else put that in. This is why when they
So
say,
the
I'm
use
going
of
to claim the
that's-
trust, it's like you can't claim the trust because the
Yeah,
trust
the
never
use-
belonged to you.
right. The usufruct thing is
Usufruct.
is what
Usufruct.
a lot of people. Pardon?
Usufruct.
Usufruct.
Yeah,
however
Have
you-
to
it's
internet
just-
search that.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
whatever
just
it's
the-
called.
it's just the
Is that
initial
what
trust
people colloquially call the Cestui Trust?
Oh, that thing
Well,
as well.
yeah, basically the Cestui
Or
trust.
the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cestui.
But as I say, but that's in a sense what that's what happens with it, because there is an amount put in there for you, which is
Yes.
usually your weight in gold. Usually,
Oh,
Right.
we're going to eat more.
well, yeah,
So
because
if you're a fat
they
baby-
have to put an asset in there. They have to put an
Yeah.
asset in there. Those that wouldn't
Gosh.
stand up, so they actually give you your weight in gold, which is 3 ounces of gold.
When you're born.
When you're
Basically,
born,
when
yeah.
you're born,
Yeah,
yeah.
not now.
Yep.
So
And
it's
then-
ideal if you're a fat baby. They
That's what
must
I'm
love
going to
them,
say.
mustn't they?
Let's eat some
If
more
you're
McDonald's.
a bit early, it's like, oh, he's not going to earn
Yeah.
much, is he? My,
Yeah.
it's like
Well, that's all that happens
2
is-
ounces.
Well, that's all that happens is that initial money you don't own because somebody set that up for you. So when you shut down the trust, you give them that back and say, I just want the profit and the
Yes.
interest from the inception of the trust,
Which could be a lot more than the original fee.
which is insurmountably more.
Massive.
And I mean,
So you-
insurmountably more. I've
So
actually
you'd
seen
be
my own.
just to be.
Well, I've actually seen my own actual trust, bank accounts, which are on Jersey in the Abbey National Trust Treasury account. I've actually seen them and verified it with them that they exist
Gosh,
under my
have you-
birth certificate.
Have you
and
drawn
my
out of
national-
them?
No, you can't because they don't belong to you.
Right.
They
It
don't
must be
belong to
very
you.
frustrating. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
that's
it
even
is.
more frustrating. I mean, many of
You
us
can
know
shut
that it
them down.
exists, but the
You can
fact
shut
that
them
you've
down,
actually
but-
gone there and seen it and verified and
And you
seen
can't get to it.
there's this sodding money of mine,
Yeah,
I
I
can't
want
have
it.
it.
Well, it's a case of I've got to prove that I'm
Living.
alive, and the only way I can do that is to get my statement of live birth, which actually made which is the document that the midwife sends to the General Registry Office to basically inform them that there's been a live birth. Because if it's a stillbirth, they send the same document. It says statement of stillbirth, and they send that to the General Registry Office to
Right.
say that this child was born dead. But like
So
I
sticking
say,
a pit.
so
So
you
sticking.
need the statement of live birth, which is either the midwife records or your NHS records. And if they haven't got one, you can go back to the midwives and actually ask them to actually make a new one out to you, which then shows
Do you
that you
still
are
know your
alive.
midwife after? So, I mean, I wouldn't have a
No,
clue.
no, you go back
No.
to the association because they hold it in the archives.
I mean, she's
because-
likely to be dead
But
now.
you wouldn't have known
No,
that
no,
anyway,
no.
would you?
No,
Yeah.
I said hello as I came out.
No, they have that. They'll have that either on your NHS record because it's the first document that makes your record, because that's where you get your NHS number from.
When did
Yes.
they start this malarkey from?
Well, they started it basically from 1825 as soon as
Oh, so
the
there's
actual.
nobody alive today.
No,
that's-
no.
I'm just no, that's fair enough.
We've got another question here because I know you love the questions obviously because that's why we're doing this live show and
well from the
from the audience and
yes.
this relates to the putting things in your children's names. So question from Princess Nads. What happens if you put your house in the children's name and you decide you want to sell the house? I mean, you're in charge of your children anyway, aren't you? So
You've already got all
Can the children
documentation.
turn around and say, "No, you're not selling that. It's mine."
Well, no, because you're the guardian
Yeah,
over the
so
child.
you
You
can- yeah.
have
Alright.
guardianship over their documentation.
That was just a
and
joke,
the decisions that are made essentially. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of that, you can always use the audit trail because it's all it comes down to is having the documentation to prove it.
Well, that's
Right.
why I would put it in a trust, because then I would remain the trustee and the children, the beneficiaries. So the trustee makes the decisions about what the trust invests in.
right.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And if you have a dormant company, can it affect your benefits? Oh,
Don't think so. No, that's not going to affect your benefits.
Because the company is not trading, is it? It's dormant.
No,
so why
because
would
the only
No.
time that their benefits would actually be impeded upon it is if that company started trading, because the HMRC would notify them.
Yes.
So,
Right.
and if
Up until
you've got
then,
and so if you've got a dormant company, and you're not trading. HMRC haven't got any accounts for you, so they don't send
They
notification.
can't trace you.
So
Well,
they don't-
once a year, you file your dormant accounts and you make a statement that there's been no income.
confirmation. Yeah,
That's
confirmation
right.
statement.
Yeah.
So Huffman Aviation has a question. How much common land is there left in the UK, and how are they planning to enclose it? Do we know that answer?
Well, I think about 30% of the land is not registered. Okay. So that gives you an idea of.
Let's go shopping. Let's go
Yes.
finding
no,
it.
everybody sit there quietly. I'm just going to nip out from my...
I'll drive you.
But you all just sit there just doing your own thing. Don't
bring
tell them
your
where
clone
it is.
on. Bring your clone on, and
Now, there's a lot of stuff out there, in the truth movement. They think that the king owns the land. He doesn't.
oh,
How did he own it in the first
Yes.
place, other than coming
Yes.
over in a Norman boat and
Yes.
saying he claims
yes, and
it?
putting
In
a
fact-
stake in it.
He didn't. He claimed a survey of the land. I see Gary nodding as well.
Ah,
So he's only got a
It was
document
like a
then.
tribune, essentially, wasn't it?
Yes.
He acted like a tribune in that sense.
It's a bluff.
another one.
The king's
It's a
bluffing.
bluff.
See, the king can't go against God. Going back to the dominion thing again. So every man has dominion of the earth. Basically, it means that every man has a piece of the land. He can stake his claim and say, that parcel of land there's 10 acres. Put some stakes in there and I'll parcel it off. That's mine. That's my dominion. Everyone leave me alone. Now, the king knew he couldn't go against God, because if the king went in and collected all the land, well, that's violating man's sovereignty, his dominion and his sovereignty. They couldn't do that. So instead, the king created a survey. So all he did is everything I can see. And he put it into a jurisdiction, the corporate jurisdiction, and then people have been buying worthless bits of paper thinking that they own something. And
Well, this is why churches have bells on them, because the sound of the bell, where the sound ends, the dominion ends. And then that's their flock. Their dominion is the sound of the bell, and where it ends is where the dominion ends. So it's as far as they can see.
Yes.
That is really interesting.
It is,
So what you're saying then, that's 30% that haven't claimed any land allodially.
Yes. Well, here's the thing, right? The thing is, say your house, the bricks and mortar now, the actual.
You leave it alone.
Yeah. No one's claimed it yet. You haven't claimed it yet. So remember that the land registry.
Can I just say I'm claiming my house before
Yes,
anybody else
claim
gets
it.
in there?
Yes, I'm claiming mine
Claim
as
it.
well. Quickly claim your house.
Claim it now.
It's on a public record.
You've got
this.
witnesses,
So
yeah,
my
yeah.
house at 32 Acacia Avenue, in case you're popping in for tea, which isn't actually the address, but
No.
I'm claiming it. I've lived here for 34 years, thank you.
It's
Here's the
yours.
thing: you can't claim the address because that's not yours. This is another dirty trick.
Ah.
You see, it's postcodes and house numbers. You see, that's not yours.
No.
That's a
That's
jurisdiction.
District and ward, isn't it?
There you go.
Is it-
Gary's got
Right.
it.
District and ward,
That's it.
simple as.
So how would
That's
you
why
just...
we put square brackets around the number of the house
Code.
and
Oh,
So
so
that'd be
around the
correct.
postcode, because
Can you spell
then
your...
it's off the page.
It's off
Can
the
you-
page.
Oh,
the
right.
page.
Exactly.
Can you spell your name instead of use a number? Does that make a difference?
Well, you don't even want the number referenced. So because it's not your number, you didn't pick number 32. So if you want to claim the house, don't claim the address. You
Right.
claim
Right.
the house, and you
Right.
call it
you
Vobes
want.
House.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it
Vobes
Biggleswick.
Biggleswick.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll all
Lovely.
move in though. Be careful. We'll all come flocking.
You know that
Yes.
rich
You're all
people
welcome.
only have houses; they don't have house numbers.
Who do?
Rich people only have house names;
Houses,
they don't have
yes,
house numbers.
yes.
Like
Yes.
House of Windsor. So
Yes.
your house should be House of Vobes.
House
Yes.
of Vobes. That's got
House
a
of
certain
Vobes.
ring to it.
It has House of Vobes.
Especially when you
Nothing to do
push
with
the
the
button.
postcode.
It's got a
Yes.
nice ring to it.
Annabelle.
Well, that's
David.
there's the castle doctrine and application right there.
Yeah.
Yes, Castle Doctrine. Yes.
We've only
that
got
in.
15 minutes, chaps.
Only 15
yeah,
minutes?
I know,
What
it's
happened?
flying by. David _ says, why do you believe that water, gas and electricity are free when they are service provided manufactured products?
Because I've already paid for them.
There you go.
I paid
Got
for
that,
this.
David _
Yeah, I paid for this through my trust. My foreign scientist trust paid for it. This is why you make repayments, because they're getting you to pay for it again.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Repayment.
Repayment.
Repayments.
Repaying.
Repaying.
Yeah, you're doing it again. So I've already
Yeah.
paid. No, the way it works is you have a foreign CITES trust. I'm going to really just slimline it here, but you've got a foreign CITES trust operating at the national level that creates credit in your name. The government uses that, you're the creditor, and it builds power stations and creates electricity, but it creates a debt. And what it is the government is supposed to pay you that back because you're the creditor, they're the debtor, but they don't want to do that. So instead, they sell the debt to utility companies, and they are credit brokers, and they sell you the debt, tricking you into thinking you're buying gas and electricity, but in fact, you're buying back your own debt.
That's why they send you. That's why they send you a statement because you're a shareholder.
Yes.
So can I send
you a statement?
So can I just share? You're a shareholder, isn't it? And you're a paid-up shareholder, so you get a statement of the balance.
Right. So I'm going to share you a story here.
You're going to share us one?
I'm going to share you.
All right, Max Bygraves. Is that, do you want to tell us
I want to tell you a story.
Tommy Cooper.
So I had a letter the other day, a few weeks ago. I had a letter from the water company. I won't mention their name in case they're watching. But I had a letter saying that there was some data breach, that my name and number and bank account or whatever in some sort of stuff.
The same.
And they said, it's gone, ever so sorry, but don't panic. There's no reason to panic or whatever. So I immediately cancelled the direct debit. I have very few direct debits. Probably that's the last one. So I said, no, okay, fair enough. Get rid of the direct debit. Within 3 days, I had a thing came through that said, right, you've got to pay the whole year's amount of money with a gyro. So I had interviewed somebody in Australia, Mike somebody rather, and he had said, if ever you get one of these things, put on it, I accept this as money, now take it back and pay the debt.
And endorse it on the back.
Endorse it, that's right.
Endorse it on the back.
I did that. I've not, and that's about a month ago now. I've not heard a dicky bird.
Wow, there you go.
That's good. That's
excellent.
They might come. I mean, could they come back?
They haven't come back. I mean, they may come back and argue their case, and then we can take it up from there. But
my feeling is when you do that, or you send them a promissory note, you're again accepting that the debt existed in the first place, and I'm not accepting that I owe them for natural resources that a corporation is pulling out of the ground using infrastructure that was paid for out of public money, and it's the way that it's been set up is corporations are saying, well, we own the gas, or we own the electricity. But if they're harvesting it out of the air using pylons, who owns the air?
I own the air. I haven't told anybody.
Well, you charge us for it then, Richard.
Yeah. I'll send you a bill. So that's very interesting, and I totally agree with you. And everybody's on a bit of a journey. I just thought I'd heard it.
Good, yeah.
And I thought I'll test it. I won't say anything on the show, although I have now. But because I thought I'll wait and see what happens. Because if they came crashing back with big burly blokes and chuck a bucket of water over me and say, there's your water, mate, that would be it. But I just thought I'd put that out. I tried it and think. But I agree with you. In principle, I'd rather not be paying for something that I've already paid for or has already been paid. I agree.
And again, that's you and your sovereignty, isn't it? You're doing it your way. You're trying. You've learned some stuff.
I just thought I'd try it,
I was going to agree on that with Karen, just to say that if you only start where you feel confident enough to do it.
And choose your battles.
Literally choose the battle, choose that battle.
Else you'll be overwhelmed. And
exactly.
I haven't had to, as yet, I haven't had to fork out the cash from my own volition. Mm-hmm. So, although it may have come, they've taken it out of the Sesta-Cavi thingy.
Yeah, you said it well then.
Did I say it well?
Yeah, better than me.
I'm learning. I'm only a schoolboy.
And what's the other one? Frock. Use Frock.
Yeah, my use frocks.
Use frocks,
If anyone would like to wash my user frocks, you're very welcome. Come round, but don't use real detergent.
I use Sesta-Cavi powder.
Yes, I use this egg thing with soap nuts.
Water question as well. I mean, isn't the fact that the water is abundant in the earth, and we've got primary water which is oxygenated, mineralized and wonderful to drink, but they're not boring down and giving us that. They're giving us a concoction of chemicals, I believe, designed to slow us down and kill us. And then the money that we're paying for it, after we've paid for our own chemicals, it's been that those water companies are owned by shareholders that aren't even in the United Kingdom jurisdiction. They're elsewhere. Lots of them are Chinese. And so we need to follow where that money is going. Where's the evidence that it's paying for the electricity and the gas? And if so, who owns it in the first place?
And plus, all your water's been through at least 4 sets of kidneys before you get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only satisfaction you've got, is, of course, is every time you sit down on the bog and do a big one, you are sending them a big pile of something to deal with. Although, of course,
Mr. Vobes.
In old days, you could put that on the farms. I wouldn't put anything.
In old days, you could chuck it out the window as well, couldn't you?
Well, that's the other thing. If they say, well, we're collecting the waste from you, you say, well, fair enough. I just go back to the old principle of chucking it out the window.
Open out.
Open up. So going back, I had to scroll up. How do I claim my land that I paid for? I know we've sort of talked about
Okay, yeah. Okay, this is... we were covering this earlier, weren't we?
We've got 9 minutes, folks.
Yeah.
It's mislaid. Right, yeah, that's right. So if we understand how commerce works, this is going to be very simplistic, overview. But basically, we all know it's all corporations, and I can terminate contract, all right? So I can terminate contract with the land registry. I'll have the titles back, even though they're completely worthless, not worth anything at all. And they're garbage. So they're not even real deeds. People think I've got my deed. No, you haven't. Have a read. You've got a deed of trust. It's worthless. It's not even got your name on it. It's got all caps on there or statutory resident or something like that. So it's worthless. So what you do is you claim the house itself or the land itself. And you do this like they used to do in the olden days through affidavit. You stake your claim. There you go. And then you make a claim. You would tell the people in the area, local village, you put a notice up saying it's my intention to claim the land. After 30 days, if no one rebuts me, I'm going to claim it through affidavit.
Yeah, you get it through treaty, don't you? Essentially, it's surrendered to you then.
Yes, it's yours. That's right. And you claim it. You can create your own deed. So this is where the deeds were supposed to come from you. Now, what I'm trying to do with the Sovereign Project, I want to blend some of the old, because in the olden days, you had affidavits, notices, you had your own seal. Every man had his seal, coat of arms, that sort of stuff. We'll go back to that. I want to mix the old with the new, bring in the blockchain. Because now we have the technology where we can actually put objects on the blockchain as an NFT, non-fungible token. I could put a unique code on your car, on your house. I can then attach all your documents to it. You can put it on the blockchain. You don't need land registry anymore. You don't need government anymore. It's decentralized. Then
it's ledgered.
Can check it. Yes.
And it's ledgered. And
it's ledgered.
And anybody that's in the notes on that blockchain will also have a ledger of it. So there'll be thousands of actually entries on it.
Correct. And it eliminates almost all fraud, because you if you want to sell the car, let's say you've claimed the car back, you've sent them the number plates back, you've sent the logbook back, you claim the car through affidavit, you put your own unique blockchain code on there, stick it on the blockchain, NFT, there you go, and you can sell it. And the buyer who's buying it knows because it's on the blockchain.
It's like a VIN number. It becomes like a VIN number on your car after.
Yes, it's unique. And
I do remember Vim, actually.
Yeah. Do you Vim?
Vim. Yeah. They don't sell Vim anymore.
Yeah, around the bar or something, wasn't it? Vim.
Yeah. Like a Vim number.
VIN number.
Yeah. No, very interesting. I'm just aware we're running rapidly out of time. It's amazing 2 hours has gone
really quickly, hasn't it?
Apart from that idiot who's been prattling about a bit, cracking
What, you
jokes.
or on here? You?
Me.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Obviously, me.
No, Richard's prattling around more than me.
No, that's right. No, I'm agreeing with you. I am the one prattling about. I'm trying to keep it light. People don't want it light. They want it all serious.
Yeah, they want it serious.
No, don't want serious.
Doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom. Happy chappies. So can I say the dates?
Yes, of course, yes.
Or you were waiting to say something?
No, not at all. I was just kind of slowly wrapping it up so that people are at ease to go and make a cup of tea.
So what we're doing is, the panel, or members of the panel, we're going to take them on the road, and we've got some dates. And we don't know who is going to be on all the panels. Some of them are organised, but mainly if you put it in your diary, and if you want to come and have a chat with these people with your own questions, please support what we're trying to do here, because it is about bringing the numbers together so we can take action, isn't it, Richard?
Absolutely.
Walk the talk. So 11th of May in Chiswick, 26th of May Glastonbury, 9th of June in East Sussex, 23rd of June in Buxton, 14th of July in North London, Swiss Cottage, and the 22nd of July in Hull. So that's what we've got so far. And then Pete's got his Sovereign Conference on the 4th of August.
Did you say the last one was
27th of July in Hull.
Don't you mean Kingston on the River Hull?
Well, I think so, because I thought it was Pet Hull before, but it's not. It's further down, isn't it? Because there are 2 Hulls.
You've got to get it. Kingston on the River Hull, we've now discovered.
Yes, which isn't as far as Pet up there, is it? So
No.
Is that correct, Gary?
Well, yeah, I just need to confirm essentially with the
but just the kind of which Hull, which Dominion are we in? Which domain,
well, essentially with Hull, it's Hull and Borough. Well, it's the city and the county, so it's all comes under Hull.
But it is Kingston. It's the one in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kingston. Well, Kingston would be the town where the 5 gates used to be. Hull would be the borough around it.
Right.
Oh, it's a hull of an area then.
It is a hull. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's actually been affectionately been called Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Because it's been twinned with your darkest fear.
So we're going to Hollywood.
Hollywood, here we come.
Yeah, there we go. As you drive in, you actually see it as you drive in.
Oh dear!
I think we should go to Bollywood and do some,
Bollywood.
Yeah,
just remember, it is twinned with your darkest fear.
What is?
Hull is. That's where Hollywood came from, because it's twinned with your darkest fear.
Oh, not because it's Hollywood.
Not Hollywood.
Anyway, I don't know quite what we're talking about now. I've lost the essence. So that is it. I should point out, for those of you who are interested, unfortunately, I can't make half those dates.
You can't. You're a busy boy.
Which is probably at best for the viewers coming along buying the tickets. But it is going to be a fantastic thing. So if you want to come and meet the people, the panel,
and get answers,
know that they're real questions, pin them to the floor and ask them, to help you.
How do I do it?
Then that is a good opportunity. As far as tonight is concerned, we've pretty much run out of time. It's been a lively show, and it's been a great panel.
It has. It's been very interesting. Really good.
So Karen is now going to say thank you very much to each of our panel members.
Thank you very much to each of our panel members.
And each of our panel members, have you got anything that you'd like to promote, events coming up or bits and bobs for those people who didn't hear you at the beginning?
Yeah, sure. I'll just kick off. Yeah. Go to my website, sovereignproject.live. There's a whole load of free stuff on there. We have the Sovereign Wiki, which is free remedies that everyone can share. And you can even have your own wiki page if you want to share your remedy. So that's an open resource. And I think it was mentioned earlier, but we are having the Sovereign Conference on August the 4th. We've got some guest speakers. I'll be speaking, Callie Spell and Trina Deacon. And you can get information regarding this on the website.
And where is that, roughly?
It will be just outside of Leicester, because I'm in the Midlands. It's a little village just outside of Leicester. Nice, quaint hotel.
And the Sovereign Trust?
You can go to thesovereigntrust.net and look through all the compilation of videos and information that we've put on there. And if you want a Zoom for, in a similar way that some of these guys do talks, we can do individual sessions of training.
Fantastic. That sounds brilliant. And Gary?
Well, just to Karen, I'll get the Meridian Centre basically confirmed. And then obviously we can find out basically what kind of capacity we can have. And then we can actually tell Richard, obviously, I'll inform Richard to actually put it on at some later show once we've got it confirmed for that date, obviously at the Meridian Centre. So we'll get all that confirmed and obviously sent across to you.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Well, it's been a good show, hasn't it?
It's been very funny. I think you've been very naughty today. Actually, you're in a naughty mood, aren't you?
Well, I missed it. I didn't do it last week, so I was trying to make
catch up. Yeah. No, it's
things.
Been a good show, and as long as we've answered a lot of questions, I think, and got a lot of information out there, that's the main thing.
So it just remains me to say big thank you to you for watching and coming along, and all the people out there in the chat who've been hassling the lovely Julia. Not hassling her, but to been putting your questions and things. And if you didn't get your question answered, well, we're back again next week, I believe.
Next Thursday. So it's Friday today, but we're going on to a couple of Thursdays?
Yeah,
a couple of Thursdays, I think, just because of your commitments, my commitments, and the guys' are panels. And we have a new panel next week. I think we've got Pete Wilson, Callie Spell, and I can't remember.
Good guess. Good guess.
Yeah. And you guys,
good guess. A bit like a game show now, isn't it?
It is, but hopefully you guys will come back as well, because we if there's interest, we just keep it flowing and just keep the information out and helping you, get your information out. That's what it's all about, isn't it? And walking the talk.
Just as a matter, just before we go, as a panel coming on the show, what did you think? Do you think this format is good? Are you enjoying the questions and answers from the audience?
Yeah, that's fine. No problem at all.
Yes, yeah, I enjoy the challenge of thinking on my feet.
Are you standing up then, Roger?
I've been stroking my dog through most of it. I mean, sort of slightly twisted to the side.
Poor old dog, slightly twisted to the
side.
No, Roger's twisted to the side. And Gary, have you? It's lovely to. I know Pete, but it's lovely to meet the Sovereign Trust and Gary. Thank you so much for coming tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and every show's been different. That's what I've liked.
Indeed,
so far.
they've changed. Different people. Yeah.
So that is no excuse not to come next Thursday when we do the show. Yeah. Karen, thank you very much for facilitating and doing all the stuff.
No worries.
And the Freedom Network.
The Freedom Network. Oh, yes. Okay, so that's still going. So if you want to find like-minded people in your area, go on to thefreedomnetwork.co.uk, and that will take you to a map, and then you can just contact whoever is running the hub in your area and meet like-minded people. And also we are organising the Uprise and Shine Conference, which is going to come to that on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of May. That's in East Sussex, so do come along to that. That will be on the website. And lots of other things going on, comedy things that you're coming to, and more Lawful Remedy.
Is it comedy?
Well, the one that you're doing, yes, that's on the 18th of May. It's a comedy night, yeah.
Funny now.
Yeah, I know. We've got Abby Roberts and some other people. Again, I can't remember unless it's written down, but lots going on through the Freedom Network.
Brilliant. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Big thanks to the panel. Thank you to Karen. We'll be back next Thursday. But that's it from us. You can now go and relax and sort out whatever it is you've got to sort out.
Fill in your forms, I think.
Fill in your forms. Until next time,